Greetings and salutations. Thank you for lending an ear to The Voice of the Times this Monday, November 23, 2020. For today's editorial, the IATF-EID should study the science and math of the pandemic. Before the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases, or IATF-EID, issues another policy pronouncement on the coronavirus pandemic, such as, say, imposing restrictions on the country's celebration of the Christmas and New Year holidays, we urge the task force, especially its Department of Health component, to prudently study and comprehend the science and the math of the pandemic. First, why the science? On October 13, 2020, the World Health Organization, or WHO, in a major policy shift, urged world leaders to stop using lockdowns as your primary control method against the coronavirus amid fears that they could lead to as many as 100 million deaths. In a video footage of Spectator magazine, the WHO's Special Envoy to the Coronavirus Disease 2019, or COVID-19, Dr. David Nabarro, said the group had changed its views on lockdowns, which had impacted billions of people. We in the World Health Organization do not advocate lockdowns as the primary means of control of this virus, he continued. The only time we believe a lockdown is justified is to buy you time to reorganize, regroup, rebalance your resources, protect your health workers who are exhausted, but by and large, we'd rather not do it. Elsewhere, experts and scientists contend that lockdowns, masks, and other authoritarian measures do little or nothing to promote health. Instead, these erode freedom and create its own health problems. Those who know the truth should persuade governments to listen to true science, while those more at risk, such as the elderly and people with certain health problems, could be encouraged to take extra precautions. All people should be given back the liberty to make their own healthcare decisions. Dr. Nabarro was anxious to stress that tight restrictions cause significant harm, particularly on the global economy. Lockdowns just have one consequence that you must never ever belittle, and that is making poor people an awful lot poorer, he said. Absurdly, here in the Philippines, the IATF-EID, the government's chief COVID policy advisor, has made the lockdown or quarantine its principal weapon to fight the pandemic. Next, why the math? On October 5 this year, the WHO finally confirmed what many experts and studies had been saying for months, that the coronavirus is no deadlier or dangerous than seasonal flu. The WHO's top brass made this announcement during a special session of its 34-member executive board. Dr. Michael Ryan, the head of emergencies, disclosed that they believe roughly 10% of the world had been infected with the severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2, or SARS-CoV-2, the strain of virus that causes COVID-19. This is their best estimate and a huge increase over the number of officially recognized cases of around 35 million. Dr. Margaret Harris, a WHO spokesman, later confirmed the figure, stating it was based on the average results of all the broad seroprevalence studies done around the world. The global population is roughly 7.8 billion people. If 10% have been infected, that is 780 million cases. The global death toll currently attributed to SARS-CoV-2 infections is 1,061,539. That's an infection fatality rate, or IFR, of roughly 0.14%. This is right in line with seasonal flu and the predictions of many experts around the world. The figure 0.14% is over 20 times lower than the WHO's provisional figure of 3.4% back in March. This figure was used in the models, which were used to justify lockdowns and other draconian policies across the planet. In fact, given the over-reporting of COVID deaths, the IFR is likely even lower than 0.14% and could show COVID to be much less dangerous than the flu. Why is all this important? This is important because our government, with the inexpert and unsupported advice of the IATF-EID, has mechanically extended the community quarantine and numerous restrictions, month after month, and is now facing a critical decision concerning our Christmas holidays. In earlier months at the start of the pandemic, when we knew very little about the disease, it was understandable why there was a tendency to lean on the side of paranoia in our COVID policy. Today, when vaccine development has spectacularly advanced and when medical science knows much more about the virus, it is misguided and backward for our country to stay chained to a quarantine regime. The numbers and the data do not add up. And that's the editorial for Monday, November 23, 2020. For more news and information, get a copy of the Manila Times on print, subscribe to our digital edition, or log on to www.manilatimes.net. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and listen to The Voice of the Times.